on next week's episode of What Not to Do.
No, not monkeys.
Each morning, we wake up thankful to live in a free nation with liberty and justice for all. But sometimes those liberties can be put in jeopardy, and you may have questions about what to do or who to call. Let Doc Blanchard of Blanchard, Miriam, Adele, and Kirkland help you find the answers. Attorneys at law since 1974 and located in downtown Ocala. If you have legal issues, don't go it alone. Call 352-732-7218. Blanchard, Miriam, Adele, and Kirkland, helping protect your liberties every day.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. A few of our tractor services include bush hogging, disking, and rototilling. We also have zero-turn mowers for the smaller paddocks, aisleways, fence rows, and lawn care. Fence row spraying is also available for weed control. We are family-owned and operated, licensed and insured, and farm-ready. Powell Gene, Gene, at yahoo.com, 352-629-2440. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. Gene is a proud United States veteran.
Now you've done it. Have you lost your mind? He's back. And you're listening again. A legend in his own mind. Don't believe me? Just ask him. Here's Tom Schmitz live on WOCA. The Source.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks on a Thursday. This is something I've been waiting for this interview because of some ailments I got going on. So I'm going to find out some information about whether I should be concerned or not about having a higher risk of heart attack, stroke, or even losing a limb. If you live with something called peripheral artery disease, or PAD, it is the leading cause of amputation worldwide. An estimated 20 million Americans live with PAD, yet only 8.5 million are currently diagnosed. On the phone lines with us this morning is Dr. Geoffrey Barnes, and he's going to talk to us about why it's so important to identify PAD early. Dr. Barnes, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having me, Tom.
You know, what is peripheral artery disease and who does it affect? Because I have some concerns about what's going on with me right now, so I want to find out what this is.
Yeah, I think you really hit a couple of the key points. You know, peripheral artery disease, or PAD, is a chronic condition that affects blood vessels, primarily that head down to your legs. And what happens here is these blood vessels start to get narrowed. So it makes it harder for the blood to get down to those muscles in your legs or even down to the feet. And it's that blockage that tends to cause the problems that we see for people. And exactly like you talked about, can lead to some of those really bad complications down the line.
Well, I tell you this, doctor, I've been over the past 3 weeks. I woke up 3 weeks ago on a Wednesday morning with a right leg that was swollen, and I'd gained like 13 pounds overnight because of water retention in my leg and my feet. They've done liver, kidney, they did an echocardiogram, they've looked for blood clots. They can't seem to figure out why my legs are retaining water like this so bad. Is this one of the symptoms of PAD?
You know, that's a great question. And the legs are really a challenge because lots of different things can cause swelling or pain in the legs. When people have PAD, the things they tend to tell me about is that the leg will have pain or aching when it walks that maybe gets a little bit better when they stop to rest.
100%.
But other people will tell me about Other people will say, you know, I might feel a numbness or a tingling. Sometimes they use that pins and needles description in their feet. Sometimes people even come into clinic and they show me a sore on their foot, maybe one that they've had there for a while that just hasn't healed. But I'll tell you, the most common thing I hear from folks is, I just can't keep up with my grandkids. They want to run around and my legs just tire out and I can't keep up with them. That's often a sign to me that I need to look into PAD to see whether or not that person might have a problem with these blood vessels of their leg.
I know what you're going to say to me about the next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So is this something that if you feel like some of these boxes are checked for you, because you've just checked my tired legs, sometimes they go numb, you know, and my primary doctor seems to be at a loss as well. This is something that I should bring up with him and have a discussion with him about.
Absolutely. This is definitely something that's important to ask your doctor about. You know, if you have any of those signs or symptoms we talked about, especially if you're at risk. And what I mean by that is if you're a smoker or a former smoker, you're at much higher risk of PAD, probably about 4 times higher than people who'd never smoked before. Likewise, if you have high blood pressure or diabetes. And unfortunately, in America, if you're a Black American, you're also at a much higher risk for having PAD and not getting it diagnosed early. So if any of those things apply to you, this is something to talk to your doctor about and ask them whether or not you might have PAD.
I've never smoked in my life, but I did a lot of damage to my heart, I'm sure, in my 20s, because I had this desire to put things in my nose to stay awake for very long periods of time. So I didn't do my heart any favors in my 20s, I guarantee you. And it's one of these concerns. Is this age-related PAD, or can it strike anybody? Because I'm in my mid-50s now, and, things are not working like they did in my mid-20s. But is this something that age has a factor in? And I'm a little overweight. Does that have something to do with the factoring in?
Yeah, both of those are really good points. This is something that can impact anyone, but it is much more common as we get older. Most of the people I see in clinic are in their 50s, 60s, or 70s with PAD. Many of them are overweight, just as you described. They often are smokers, but not always. And so all those things you talked about, those are really good reasons to have that conversation with your doctor and ask whether or not you might have PAD. There are some really simple ways for us to diagnose it, but we can't get that started if you're not in the office and we're not having that conversation.
What happens if it's left undiagnosed or untreated? What impact could it have on the condition? Could PAD have on you?
Yeah, there are a couple really unfortunate things that happen when we don't manage PAD, if we haven't diagnosed it and we don't manage it. First off, blood vessels are connected all throughout the body. So if you have PAD and it's not treated, you're actually at higher risk for heart attacks and strokes. But when we think just about the leg, where that PAD tends to sit, people who get severe forms of PAD that are not treated can even lead to amputation. And in fact, PAD is the #1 cause of amputation in the world. And we know that amputation can really impact people's quality of life and also increase their risk of death. So that's definitely something we want to try and avoid whenever possible.
Okay, so what steps can I do then to help prevent lower limb amputations as a result of PAD?
Yeah, I think you're already starting, right? The #1 step is to know what PAD is and to think about whether or not you might be at risk for PAD. Then you have to go to your doctor's office and talk with them about it. I always tell my patients when you come in to see me, so if you're coming for an annual checkup or you're seeing a diabetes doc or a heart doc, take off your shoes and socks. Let us look at your feet so we can see whether there's any signs of PAD. But also it helps us start that conversation and ask those questions about walking, exercise, pain, those sorts of things. Those are really important things for you to do.
I tell you what, the heat edema to this foot is so swollen. It's made my foot peel like I've got a sunburn on top of it or something. So I'm going to my doctor and I'm going to have this conversation with him. Well, what is the most important message? Because you've convinced me to have the conversation with my doctor. But what's the most important message you want listeners that are hearing this right now to take away from the conversation you and I have had?
Yeah, the most important thing is I want you to know what PAD is and to think about whether or not you may be at risk for PAD so that you can have that conversation with your doctor. And if you want to learn more, I would encourage you to go to this great website. It's vascularcures.org/PAD. There's a ton of great information to help you learn more about what PAD is, what some of the risk factors are, and different ways that we treat it. And it'll help you prepare for that conversation you have the next time you go to see your doctor.
Dr. Grace, he's the director of the Blanchard Valley Diabetes Center in Findlay, Ohio. He's also on the Ohio State Medical Association Physician Advisory Committee as an advisor for diabetes. Doctor, thank you. You've opened my eyes. I knew this was going to be a conversation that I would want to have because of the current condition I'm going through right now. And I'm sure there are a lot of people like me that are wondering what the answers are. Now we have some questions we can ask our primary care physician. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you. That's Dr. Geoffrey Barnes. We'll take a break. When we come back, more on Ocala Talks. Vets news, vets helping vets. They'll be on the phone lines with us or in studio. I don't know what they're doing. We'll find out more about where the vets are. Coming up next, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. This is WOCA, The Source.